Godzilla and Kong Empire, a movie that has so much world building that it's impossible not to go back several times and just keep seeing more things that you missed when you've seen it the first time. One of the things that people pointed out that I did see, I didn't mention it, as a matter of fact, I think I mentioned it very early on before I even saw the movie, was that the little ape, who people are now calling Suko, has red hair, and so does our antagonist, SKAR KING. We see most of the adult apes do not have red hair. Red hair is not something common to them, and you may just think that maybe it's like some of us when we have a different color hair when we're babies. And then as you grow up, your hair changes in texture. Maybe it was wavier when you were little. Maybe it was blonder or browner. Maybe it was black and it turned brown when you got older. And that's kind of the same thing that's occurring with the baby apes in this universe. However, we know that part of that's not completely the case here because SKAR KING himself is an adult, I believe older than a lot of these apes, and he has red hair. Not to mention, I think SKAR KIng's presence in Godzilla and Kong Empire is an allegory for people that own
slaves. Just say slaves.
I mean, it's almost to the point where they're on the nose with this. We don't exactly know what breed of Kong or simian SKAR KIng is, but we're looking at him and his features, and he definitely looks much different, not just in color, but also in his facial structure than Kong's family. Kong is more muscular, taller, heavier, and looks more gorilla in nature, while SKAR KIng looks less like a gorilla and more like either an orangutan, maybe some of the inspiration for the red hair and much longer arms, or some kind of spider monkey. I would lean orangutan because the only ape I've ever seen that looks similar to this are orangutans. Just look at these dapper red ape gingers. Look at the long arms. They've also been known for getting their way by holding humans hostage when they want something and threatening to make their lives very uncomfortable if they don't give them that thing. So in other words, woman, you come with me and stay with me. I will not let you go. And somebody else, I have her ransom. Keep feeding me until I'm satisfied, and then I'll let her go. Or threatening to pull people in and bite them when you're teasing them a little bit too much and taunting them. Bro almost lost his toes for content. But aside from the very rare footage that we get of orangutans acting badly because people are invading their territory or keeping them in cages, they're actually quite peaceful.
You shouldn't have done that.
Jesus Christ.
Unless you try to mess with them or steal from them or bother them, or if they're just not feeling very good that day. How many times do people have to explain to people, don't mess with gingers? It's not that they don't have any soul, they have way too much of it than anybody else, and they would gladly snatch yours. I thought it was very fitting that they put SKAR KIng as the villain in Godzilla and Kong Empire. I think the other reason they did this also was because he's the villain, he's red in anime. Whenever someone has red hair or has red eyes, there's a lot of passion, rage, anger, and power. Then again, it can also symbolize bravery and love and all that jazz. But we see red in this movie clearly means antagonist, or it could just be marketing. But again, back to genetics.
Oh, here we go.
For human beings with orange hair, red hair, or as we call it, gingers, this is a recessive trait. It is said that 1 to 2% of the world population, only appearing with greater frequency to 2 to 6% among northern or northwestern European people, have this recessive trait. What this means is if you have someone with black hair or brown hair and they have a baby with someone who has red hair, more than likely the kids are going to come out with black hair. The black hair gene is just stronger. The only way the kids are going to come out with red hair, more than likely each time, is if both parents carry the trait for the red hair gene. So even if you have black hair, because you have a recessive gene or somewhere in your ancestry someone had red hair, you were carrying a sleeper gene, which means that if you mate with someone who also is carrying that recessive gene, or they had someone in their ancestry with red hair, or if that person has red hair, well, you have higher chances of your babies coming out with beautiful red locks. This opens up a deeper conversation about the whole Kong thing with SKAR King, which I'll get into a little bit later. But we've seen in Godzilla and Kong Empire that all the other apes have black hair, and this simian is the only one that has red hair. Clearly, he's a different breed of ape. I think they're similar species or the same species because they are able to breed with each other. And from what I've noticed, with SKAR being a slave owner and everyone bowing down to him in fear, and all the newer kids looking like they have red hair, it only stands to reason based on what we know about the whole slave thing that most likely Zuko and all the other baby apes we've seen here, we've seen a few of them being held by their mothers, are sired by SKAR King. Which would make sense, because that's what happened in time gone by. I bet a lot of Americans can trace their lineage, no matter what color they are, back to some dude who owned a bunch of people and slept with them, even though presumably he thought they were animals though, right? But they weren't animal enough for you to slide in them walls, were you? Same thing with old SKAR King here. Clearly, he thinks of these apes as beneath him. He probably outsmarted them and thinks that, well, y'all are big and built for work, so since I'm the one who's got the leash for that dog, you're all gonna do what I say. And they're terrified because nobody can fight that thing. And he's also a good fighter, so even if they tried to get it from him, even though they could literally all gang up and get it, but they're more human in that someone shows power, one person, and most people are not willing to resist because of the sheer fear of what this person can do, or loved ones that you're afraid of getting hurt because you resist. So he has this, and of course, he feels like he owns these people. He has them working and doing God knows what. I didn't really understand what it was they were supposed to be building. They were moving rocks, but you don't actually see them building anything, and there's no big structures down there that look as though they were recent or in the middle of being built, so I was a little confused at that. But of course he's gonna be like, okay, you men, you dudes, you're boys. I own you. That means that you're women, they're all mine. I think that he's also the kind of maniacal person that would see them fall in love and watch them from on his throne, and he would be all like, oh, you like that girl over there? I see you guys falling in love. I'm gonna wait, and then I'm gonna make you watch me part her like the Red Sea. I will test drive that bitch for you. There you go. You're welcome. Bow to my feet and thank me. That's the kind of thing I think he would do. And that must really suck. That's what Negan did, I think, as well. That was, man, that whole Negan clip was raw, man. That was messed up. I will never forget that. And that poor man wanted to fight back so bad, and he burned off half his, When Walking Dead was good, right? So it makes all the sense in the world based on the power that he has over these Kongs that he would sire most of the children. Also, back to what I was saying, Kong, we've seen the birth of Kong in the graphic novel. This is when Kong loses his parents. He may have a lighter brown color, but he is definitely not a red baby, which stands to reason you have two black-haired parents or gray and black, you're going to have a black-haired or dark-haired child. The only red on him is the blood due to his mom having just given birth to him in the middle of everything in chaos. His dad's a badass, just saying. This is terrible. Poor guy. And so this is in line with the Monsterverse universe. So now that we know that Kongs are usually born with darker hair, the red hair babies and having a red-headed slave owner means that, of course, most of those babies that we see, particularly the ones with red hair, are his. Which either means that in this universe, the red hair is more dominant, or all of the Kong species have that recessive trait to that red hair, which opens up other questions, such as, why is SKAR King the last of his kind? What happened to the rest of his kind? Is he from a species that is an ancestor to all of these Kongs? Whether his kind was killed off, whether he's the last of his kind because of that, or he is just happens to be one of the last, just like Gia is one of the last Iwi, here he is. And he is making sure that he's not the last because he's breeding a bunch of himself into all of his concubines that he owns. I just found that very interesting. And what I also find freaking interesting is, how did he even get control of Shimo in the first place? These Kongs come from a warrior nation of people who fought to the death a skull crawler invasion. And they are reduced to rubble because another one of their kind that just happened to outsmart them and get his hands on something that nobody knows how it works. And I like how in this movie, they portray Shimo as a sort of dog. She is Godzilla size, but she's clearly stupid. And I don't mean stupid in like a bad way compared to the apes. or doesn't have the intelligence that they have, because when she is free, we see Kong scratching her under her chin like a puppy, which that's all that is needed. Like, she acts like a dog, and she, you know, she has a mannerism. So can you see Kong scratching Godzilla under his chin? For real now. I swear to God, if he tried that shit, Godzilla would give him a side eye and be like, okay, I'm gonna give you 2 seconds to recollect yourself, because clearly you've lost a section of your mind. I'm gonna be gracious today because I'm a generous God and give you 2 seconds to find it, for you take your fucking hands off me. That's what Godzilla would say. Now, she is a different species than Godzilla, sort of, but I wasn't getting complete intelligence and mastermind and I know what I'm doing coming from her, which is surprising. So that would make people shipping her and Godzilla together even more, insidious, because can you imagine Godzilla going to a woman who thinks she's a dog, or maybe she spent so long being like, you know, I don't, just saying, she thinks that it's a dog in their universe, or it's like a cow or something, and Kong's all like coochie coochie coo under her chin. And she's like, yeah, you know, and then Godzilla comes along and he's like, hey, what's up? And she's like, master, wagging her tail, because that's how they portrayed her in the movie. And can you imagine Godzilla being all like, I guess I have an idea. Hey, wanna play a game? That would be very fucked up, would it not be? Just saying. So if, for all of you shipping them together, just think about that for a second. I know you're not gonna care either way, because you could always rewrite her in your head, but that whole thing just went out the window for me. Because that's just like, I know there's not criminality in the kaiju world the way there is in the human world, but still, kinda fucked up.
You know why I pulled you over?
'Cause I was speeding?
No, 'cause you're black.
Anyway, I just found it very interesting, and I do wonder what happened to the rest of his kind. SKAR Kings, anyway. And whose back did he unsheath like the freaking Predator in order to make that whip?
Hey, hold up.
SKAR King has been alive for quite some time, because through exposition they mentioned that he was trapped in this subterranean realm, you know, hollow earth, under the earth, whatever, right? If he's been down here all this time, unless he recently enslaved the other Kongs, he must have been breeding with the female Kongs for a while. That implies that, based on what we can presume about his age being very old, he must have a long list of descendants spanning generations, right? And if the children that we saw were all red-haired, or at least most of them were, it begs the question, where are the red-haired adults? Why don't we see any adults? By now, he would have had many kids that were adult age, right? And this notion takes on a more sinister meaning when you think about it, because do you think the children who are red-haired are eventually killed off when they reach maturity, so that he faces no competition and remains seen as unique? But then why not eliminate them when they're young? It still leaves the open question, where the heck are the grown-ups who are redheads or who are red-haired? Insidious.